welcome to the Debunking Economics podcast with Professor Steve Keen. I'm Phil Dobbie. And today, William Nordaus. He's a Nobel Prize winning economist, and unlike most of the profession, he's concerned about climate, and he's trying to find a way of using economics to solve the issue of sustainability for planet Earth. But does he have a genuine drive, and is he searching for a solution that doesn't exist between two forces that are really mutually exclusive? That's today on the Debunking Economics podcast. So maybe we should be grateful for small mercies that one of the winners of the Nobel Prize for Economics this last year was a climate change champion of sorts, William Nordaus, who believes that global warming is real and economics should do something about it. And he's trying to find a way of mitigating the impact of man on the climate without impacting our growth and our standard of living. So, Steve, I mean, is this possible? Aren't they mutually exclusive? Isn't it all a bit of a dream?
It is a dream. And in fact, I think it's a total nightmare because when it first happened, I had a similar reaction to you. Okay, it's good at least somebody getting recognition for doing work on the economics of climate change. Then I remembered that Nordaus's claim to fame, the way he got to be famous in the first place, is trashing quite viciously the limits to growth study back in 1972-73, and being the person who probably led the charge of neoclassical economists to undermine the credibility of that particular study. And so that made me negative again. Then, of course, now I had to have a better look at his model. And even on a neoclassical scale, this is worse garbage than even I expected with that foundation.
Well, it's the DICE model, isn't it? The Dynamic Integrated Climate Economy model, which says the world GDP is reduced by only 1% with an increase of 2 degrees centigrade, 4% at an increase of 4 degrees centigrade, and 8 to 9% at an increase of 6 degrees centigrade. Now, from my reckoning, if we get an increase of 6 degrees centigrade, aren't we all dead or pretty close to it?
This is the thing, and this is why I look at it. You've just got to be kidding, because the way he actually derided the limits to growth was he had one of his papers was called "Limits to Growth: Measurement Without Data," and he basically said they've got all this faux fitting of the data to the model parameters itself, but really they haven't done it. Well, I would actually call him functions without forethought, because what he actually uses to supposedly work out the environmental costs of climate change is a quadratic function. So he says the amount of damages are a quadratic function, a times x plus b times x squared, where x is the increase in temperature over pre-industrial levels or over the levels that apply right now. Now, that itself is bad enough, because if it's quadratic, then it roughly says that an increase in temperature of 6 degrees will have 36 times the damage of an increase in 1 degree. But 36 times, a substantial number is a very substantial number. So you could still, even being quadratic, you could still get some sort of reasonable estimate out of there. Then I had a look, and I simply couldn't believe the parameter value he had for his little quadratic equation, because he completely left out the linear term. He left out the first power order as well. So there's no constant. There's in the value for A, if you think of A plus BX plus C squared, A was 0, B was also 0. He only had a term for the x squared element of the temperature, and that coefficient, and I quote, is 0.00267. Now, that is 1/500th of the increase you get from squaring the temperature change is taken as a damage to the planet. Multiply that by 100 to get it percentage terms. So what it ends up being, and this is just it just takes my breath away in many ways. That's where he gets this idea that a 1% increase in temperature, as you said, because what was the number again?
I think 1% is 2 degree. I don't know a percentage in temperature, but a 2 degree increase is only going to reduce GDP by 1%. 4 degrees is going to increase it by 4%, which doesn't sound very quadratic to me. It sounds a bit linear, but anyway, an 8 to 9% reduction at an increase of 6 degrees. So in other words, if we get to 6 degrees C, which is, I mean, the IPCC is reckoning we should be aiming for 1.5 degrees. So if we get 4 times that amount, the impact on the economy is going to be less than 10% of GDP.
Yeah, and I'll take you further. The reason it looks like linear is because they've got an incredibly small constant multiplying the power term. So 0.002, 1/500th of it. For a long time, the 1/500th dominates the x squared level when x is very small. Now, if I feed in 10-degree increase, that's going to reduce GDP by 26%. Exactly. We should have laughed at the fucker. Pardon the phrase.
And the reason why it would decrease by 25% is because 1 in 4 people at least would be dead. And therefore
not 1 in 4. No. The last time we had 10-degree higher temperature than the planet currently experiences on average was the Permian extinction, when 95% of all life forms died.
Well, there we are. The last 5 are going to be so productive in that case, aren't they?
Absolutely. Working
their asses off to maintain GDP. That's right.
I mean, it is just laughable. Simply laughable.
So is his model wrong, or is it just the inputs into the model? I mean, because there's, as I understand, he's put quite a lot of work. It's a reasonably complex model, isn't it?
No, it's not. Well, it's a complex model in terms of it's a neoclassical growth model. It's called a Ramsey growth model. The idea of a representative agent living for an infinite time, making decisions between consumption and investment to maximize utility through time. That's the whole crazy notion that gave us the real business cycle model. That's what it's actually built on. So he got rid of the limits to growth by disparaging the hell out of it, and we didn't get the development of system dynamics we could have got if people had actually appreciated the technology properly. Instead, we got this bloody stupid neoclassical piece of garbage being developed by him, along with a number of others. There's 3 other models that are quite similar. But when it comes down to they have calibrated the wrong functions. And this is the crazy thing. It isn't just that they've got this neoclassical growth model and so on. They're using a quadratic form. Now, a quadratic, as I've said, if you have, you can actually, I'll type in the numbers. Let's see, a 25-degree increase in temperature will cause 160. Give you 166% as your divisor, 1.6 divisor. That'll mean GDP is 1.6 times lower than it would have been without climate change, with a 25-degree temperature increase.
Right.
Now,
it's a simple linear model where it actually said, well, at what temperature do we all die? Would be more accurate in that case. Well, it sounds like anything would be more accurate than the model that he's come up with. But look, if you want to hear the full discussion on this, the full half hour talking about the work of William Nordaus with Professor Steve Keen, then you need to become a supporter of Steve on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Prof Steve Keen and you pledge $10 support each month to his work, then you get access to this and all the other podcasts in this series. Or if you just want to hear the podcast, you can go to debunkingeconomics.com and choose one of these subscription options there. Hopefully you'll do that, and we'll see you back here again very soon. I'm Phil Dobbie. Thanks for listening.